Alright, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're looking at two cigar pens I did for some friends of ours, and you're just seeing me prep to cast resin blocks. So the request for the first one was for a blue pen, so I picked out a couple of different blue colors. I used PearlEx Interference Blue. I used a blue paint, acrylic paint. You got to be careful using acrylic paint and resin, but it does work. By the way, if you're wondering, the resin I use is Vivid Vinyl's stuff. It's available on Amazon. It's pretty affordable, and I've never had a problem with it. The chip out's minimal, and it works really well, nice and hard, shines up nice. So the second color they requested was a black, so I did a black. I used Black Diamond's Black Diamond pigment, so it's a little bit sparkly, and I threw like a pearl in there just to give it a little bit more sparkle. And you'll pardon my elbows. My camera setup is not great. I'm still sort of figuring out this whole YouTube thing. Oh, and one more thing. Because this is for a couple, I included a shot of the Interference Blue in the black pen, and I included a shot of the Black Diamond pigment in the blue pen. So here I am just pouring the mold, and I use the blowtorch just to take the bubbles out of the casting. So heat's one of the ways you can get epoxy resin to release its air and bubbles. Doing it in layers the way I did tends to minimize the bubbles, particularly in the middle, which is where you need, solid resin anyway. Another way to do that would be with either a vacuum chamber or a pressure pot, but I have neither, so this is what I have. So here I am demolding the blanks, and there's the black one, and there's the blue one. I thought they came out quite nice. So to prep the tubes to be glued into the blanks, which you can see up there on the top right, you have to sand them. That gives the glue something to stick to when you drill your blank out. So I'm just using some 60 grit I had kicking around to rough up the outside of the brass tube. And what I'm actually going to do here is I'm going to spray paint one set of tubes with a white paint. And the reason for that is that I was a little concerned that the blue came out a little darker than I wanted. So by putting a white tube under it, if the pigment in the casting was a little thin, the white would show through and lighten things up. And of course I have to measure my blanks. And I always do a backup measurement set. So if the first set doesn't pan out, if something doesn't drill straight, or something shatters, I've got a backup set. I actually had an issue with this where the first set of blanks did not drill straight. I'm still getting used to that pen vise that you see me using there. It's a recent acquisition, and the drill press I have doesn't go all the way I need it to go in one press. I usually have to do 2 or 3, progressively raising the blank each time. What I actually wound up doing at the end, and you didn't see it on camera because I did it off camera, was putting them in the chuck and drilling them out on the lathe, just because it centered it a little bit better. So I have to say I do not recommend doing what I'm doing there, holding it in your hand. I should have put those back in the pen vise, but I left it over in the garage and I was in the basement and I didn't want to run out and get it. So this is the stupid way of using your barrel trimmer. So don't do this. And at this point I've already glued the tubes in. Just use some CA glue for that. You can probably see on that instruction it says William Wood Wright. So that's the company I get my blanks from. You can find them at penblanks.ca. I'll put that in the description below. They've been excellent. They've got fast shipping, and they've got reasonable prices, and they've got some pretty nice designs. And of course, now we have to move on to the boring part, which is sanding. So I started at about 100 grit, and I went up through 400, and I'm only going to show you a bit of each. And then I went from 400 straight into the micro mesh sanding pads. So here you see me begin the wet sanding process using the micro mesh. Normally, I would have sanded up through 600 dry and then done a 600 wet. However, I ran out of 600 grit paper, so I just went to 400 dry and straight into the micro mesh. You can do it, it doesn't hurt anything. I just tend to try to be a bit thorough with my sanding, but these came out really nice, so I'm not too worried about it at all. So clearly at this point I'm struggling to press the tip and stuff into the tubes. The top of my F clamp there, it moves a little bit, as it's supposed to, but that can make it a little difficult to keep things straight. I don't have a pen press. So I solved it with a piece of off-cut wood, which gave me a little something better to press into rather than the soft rubber, and helped me keep things level and straight. I should also point out that at this point I figured out that I could just unscrew the narrow end of that tip, and it gave me a flatter surface to work with, and so I did that for the second pen. Okay, so there you have it. There's the project. Two pens for the price of one. Uh, we only did show the first pen being turned because the process is exactly the same for the second pen. And I cut out a whole bunch of the sanding time because nobody wants to watch sanding. It's boring. It's boring to do it. It's boring to watch it. Anyway, hopefully the customers really enjoyed it. Devin and Tyler, I hope they're nice for you. Keep in touch. Stay tuned. Should have a seam ripper coming down the line very shortly. Probably a bowl or two after that coming up as well, and then possibly a couple other interesting projects, maybe a walking stick in there somewhere. If you haven't yet, check out the subscribe button, hit the bell for notifications when I post. I know I've been infrequent, but hopefully we can start getting some regularity going on here. And check me out on Instagram, Midnight Turning Co., where you'll see some of the work that doesn't make it onto YouTube, but does make it in the form of stills. Speaking of stills, hopefully the stills that come after this are clearer than they are on my editing screen, but we only got a couple of them outdoors in presentation boxes. If you're interested, drop me a line and we can possibly hook you up with something. And yeah, have a great day and see you on the next one.